Entering the 2016 spring season, this is what our power rankings look like. 14 of the 20 teams who attended nationals in 2015 are on the list. The most notable team missing from this list is Florida State, who made the semifinals in 2015, a team led by Player of the Year Chris LaRoque. We have 3 teams in the top 10 who did not make nationals in 2015. Justin Lim's Carleton, John Stubbs' Harvard, and Khalif El Salam's Washington. Reigning champion UNC comes in at 5 in our power rankings. They are losing All-American handler Jonathan Nethercutt, as well as Ben Snell, but the rest of their team is young and developing, with players such as Aaron Warshauer, Matt Gouchanas, and Walker Matthews leading the charge. The team UNC beats in the finals, Oregon, comes in at 9. Oregon is coming in at 9 because of the departure of Dylan Freechild, who was an All-American in 2015. The team is still returning 2015 Breakout Player of the Year, Adam Reese, Connor Matthews, and Chris Stroh, so there is no need to count them out yet. The rest of our top 5 consist of Wisconsin with Craig Cox and Ross Baker. Number 3, Pittsburgh with Patrick Earls, Chris Thorne, and Trent Dillon. Number 2, UNC Wilmington with Jack Williams and Xavier Maxstad. And number 1, UMass with Player of the Year frontrunner Jeff Babbitt and one of the top rookies in the nation, Tanner Johnson. Entering the year, the title is up for grabs. UMass is coming in as the favorite, but not by much. Looking at any of the top 10 teams, you can make a convincing argument that they can make the semifinals at nationals. Even before nationals, we have plenty of heavy regional battles as there are 4 regions with multiple top 10 teams ranked. The regular season started with Santa Barbara Invite, where 3-seed Stanford cruised by the field, eventually defeating 1-seed Washington to win the tournament. Those 2 teams stood ahead of the crowd, with 6-seed British Columbia and 18-seed Victoria being the 2 other semifinalists. A strong start to the season leads to a promising Northwest region. The following weekend was Queen City Tune-Up, which consisted of UMass, UNC Wilmington, UNC, Harvard, Georgia, and James Madison, all of whom were ranked in the preseason. We got to witness Harvard and Georgia face off in pool play.
Come on, Nathan, you got it.
Georgia wins the game, which leads to them winning the pool. Out of the teams mentioned, all but James Madison make the championship bracket, as they fall to UNC and Virginia Commonwealth, putting them 3rd place in the pool. Harvard's loss to Georgia set them up to play against UNC Wilmington in the quarterfinals, in which Wilmington won 13-9. The semifinals had the 2 top teams clearing out the opponents, with UMass beating Georgia 12-9 and UNC Wilmington beating UNC 11-7. This led to a UMass versus UNC Wilmington final, which went to Universe Point.
Foul called back at the spot of the throw.
UNC Wilmington come out on top, and it showed everyone that UMass and UNC Wilmington are a cut above the rest of the pack. The next weekend, we have President's Day Invite and Florida Warm-Up. From these 2 tournaments, we have 17 of the top 25 teams playing. At President's Day Invite, the top 4 teams played as the 4 best that weekend. Oregon comes out on top after defeating regional foes British Columbia and Washington in the semifinals and finals. Colorado was the 4th semifinalist, with all 4 showing poised to be threats at nationals. At Florida Warm-Up, we saw Carleton and Texas going 6-3, missing the bracket. The top 5 team in Pittsburgh also started the weekend off 0-2 with losses to Minnesota and Texas A&M, leading them to get 7th place. Our semifinal matchups included Minnesota, who took down Texas A&M 15-9, and a Wisconsin versus Florida matchup that Wisconsin scores the final points. But Florida moves on due to hard cap coming in play. Minnesota versus Florida in the finals leads to a Universe Point matchup. This win from Minnesota shot them up 14 spots in the rankings, moving them into 4th place. The rest of the top 5 consist of UNC Wilmington, UMass, Oregon, and UNC, all of whom showed dominance in the regular season so far. At this point of the regular season, we have 2 major tournaments remaining, Stanford Invite and Easterns. At Stanford Invite, 13 of the 16 teams are ranked in the top 25, with 8 of the top 12 in attendance. With a 12-team championship bracket, we saw most teams play important games on Sunday, but Washington and Colorado were both unable to make the bracket, finishing last in their pools. In the bracket, top seeds Massachusetts, Pittsburgh, and Washington cruised to the semifinals. Surely 2-seed Oregon can do the same, right? Harvard comes out of nowhere and defeats Carleton and Oregon, both on Universe, to go to the semifinals. Harvard's run continues. Oh, alright. Wisconsin will face against Babbitt's UMass, right? Just like everyone expected, Wisconsin and Pittsburgh face off in the finals, a game that goes down to the wire. With the score tied at 13s, this happens.
Mostly just swung it between each other. Trent Dillon taking off. Van Dusen's going to put it up. Help coming. I'll pile up. Dillon gets up for it. Trent Dillon comes down with that and immediately burns a timeout. And they're saying, the Observer is saying there are no timeouts available to Pitt.
Wow.
And that is a Pittsburgh turnover, an incredible grab by Trent Dillon, and a timeout when they have none. Unbelievable turn of events. Vogt, deep shot, contested. Spice comes up with it. Wisconsin goal, 14-13. I cannot believe what I have just seen.
That was too.
Trent Dillon calls a timeout when Pittsburgh had none left, resulting in a turnover. Wisconsin go on to win the game 15-13 and take over first place in the power rankings. Oh, what's Auburn doing there? They won a tournament? Oh, cool. Against who? UNC Wilmington? Yep, that's right. Auburn take down UNC Wilmington on Universe to win Tally Classic, thanks to this massive hand block by Ryan Landry on Universe points. Entering the final major tournament of the regular season, we have Easterns. The field is filled with the top teams, with 7 of the 8 top teams in attendance. 7 of the 8 top seeds advance to the championship bracket, with Georgia this time surpassing Harvard to make the bracket. Harvard even beat Georgia, but due to tiebreakers, Georgia and Minnesota make it in over Redline. Crazy pool play results lead us to having the best rivalry in college ultimate play at 9 a.m. on Sunday. Pittsburgh versus UNC Wilmington. In a marathon point, a UNC Wilmington player out of nowhere falls to the ground. Let's watch it again. Xavier Maxtad points to the hamstring, then Grayson Sanner immediately falls with a hamstring injury. After the game, Maxtad and Sanner had quotes apologizing for the acts, an unspirited moment that shows nothing less from UNC Wilmington and their past at the time. Wilmington does go on to win the game, but they fall to Minnesota in the semifinals, who eventually get demolished by UMass in the finals 15-9. UNC was our 4th semifinalist, after they defeated Stanford 15-11 in the quarterfinals. At the end of the regular season, here is how the bids are divided by region. Many regions go to chalk, with some notes including Texas A&M upsetting Texas to claim the 2nd South Central bid, Utah beating British Columbia and Western Washington to take the 3rd Northwest bid, Cal Poly SloCore pulling off a major upset against Stanford 13-8 to take the lone Southwest bid and the Southeast craziness. The 3-bid region has Florida, Central Florida, Georgia, Auburn, and Florida State vying for the bids. The craziness happens when Tulane and Florida go to Universe Point.
Wow, there's a travel call.
You should be suspended immediately. You should be paid without pay. You blasphemy.
While that is happening, Central Florida is losing to Auburn, then loses to Georgia Tech, eliminating them from contention. Florida is set to face Florida State in the first losers bracket, in which Florida State pulls off the upset. The regional final consisted of Georgia and Auburn, in which Georgia won, claiming the first bid. Auburn then has to face Florida State in the game to go to nationals again, in which Florida State wins, booking their ticket to Raleigh. While Auburn is losing, Florida is still alive, beating Tulane and LSU on Sunday, priming up to face Auburn in the final game to go to nationals.
This is exactly what I've been waiting for. This is exactly, I don't mean to sound like Cat Williams, but this is exactly what
Auburn squeaks by and send the 1 seed home with their dreams crushed. The Nationals field is set, but before we get here, let's take a look at the frontrunners for Player of the Year. Jeff at UMass is a dominant force. He's making the best players in the nation look like your average Joes. Trent Dillon at Pittsburgh has everything to be a great player. People question if his playstyle suits him being the best player on a championship-winning team, though. John Stubbs from Harvard is carrying a not-so-deep Harvard team at Nationals. Is he able to keep it up against the best of the best? Jack Williams at UNC Wilmington has the tools to be the best player in the world, but is still reaching that point. When he's on, he is unstoppable, but he's shown times to not be on. At this point of the season, the Player of the Year race is completely up for grabs. Pool play at Nationals provided craziness. In Pool A, everything went to chalk, except for Georgia beating UMass 15-11 to start off the weekend. This helps them win the pool with UMass and Texas A&M coming in second and third. In Pool B, Colorado Mama Bird upsets UNC and 2-seed Oregon, led by a healthy Pavilianis, taking first in the pool. The rest of the pool goes to chalk, with Oregon and UNC taking second and third. In Pool C, we start off with 6-seed Wisconsin beating 3-seed UNC Wilmington, then 19-seed Connecticut beating UNC Wilmington, then 10-seed Harvard beating UNC Wilmington. Finally, Wilmington was able to beat Michigan, but it was all for nothing, as their disastrous pool play performance sends them to the basement of Pool C. Wisconsin easily take care of the pool, with Sam Greenwood's Michigan taking second and Harvard squeaking in third place. Pool D started off with Auburn taking down Pittsburgh in the opening round of the tournament. Despite that win, the pool came down to the very last round. Entering the final round of pool play, all of Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Carleton, and Auburn were 2-1, and all of them were capable of winning the pool. It was Minnesota versus Auburn and Pittsburgh versus Carleton. Auburn was able to take home a universe points pool. Pittsburgh takes care of Carleton 15-10. This puts Auburn and Pittsburgh at 3-1, and since Auburn beat them earlier, Auburn wins the pool. Minnesota and Carleton are both 2-2, and this time, Minnesota takes third in the pool due to their 15-11 win against Carleton earlier. Carleton should have won the pool if they beat Pittsburgh and the Auburn versus Minnesota result stood, but with this loss, they get sent to the consolation bracket. After an absurd set of pool play matches, we have the 1, 2, 4, and 5 seeds in the pre-quarters, with the 3 seed not even making the brackets. Harvard continues to play spoiler to Oregon, beating them 15-13. UNC takes down Michigan, and Pittsburgh beats Texas A&M. Finally, a matchup you would have expected to see in the semifinals or finals, UMass and Minnesota, a pre-quarter matchup. Minnesota was able to contain UMass's top players to not take over the game, which helped them win 14-10. In the quarterfinals, Harvard continues their magical run by breaking Georgia on Universe to go to their first ever semifinal. As Harvard's magical run continues, Auburn's magical run is ending after a loss to UNC in the quarterfinals. Pittsburgh versus Wisconsin is a matchup we've seen twice this year, with Wisconsin coming out on top both times. Nationals is a different story, as Pittsburgh wins when it matters most, 14-12. Finally, Minnesota takes down Colorado 15-11 on the backs of Ryan Oscar and Ben Yacht. Harvard versus UNC can be summed up right here.
Leading Redline to their first finals appearance in program history.
And just such an odyssey of a game that started in the sunshine, then saw some rain, then saw the hour lightning delay. There were injuries, there were contentious calls, there was spirit, there was everything, and most importantly, there was John Stubbs.
On the back of John Stubbs, Harvard is able to dethrone UNC and head to the championship game for the first time in program history. Stubbs had 4 goals and 6 assists in the game. He accounted for every single goal Harvard scored in the first half and was a true force on the field. Entering our second semifinal, Minnesota is battling plenty of injuries, including freshman phenom Cole Wallen, a defensive line star in Sam Bumstead, and potentially their best player in Ryan Oscar. Despite all of this, Minnesota is able to hold their own. With rain delays occurring throughout the entire day, this semifinals brought us into the early hours of Monday morning, and with the score set at 12-10, Minnesota lead, we have reached soft cap. We are playing a 14.
And vocal parents, but he's certainly up there. Slevin to Dylan. He's in. We'll take another look at that. A little bit slower. Nobody was cutting deep, and this will be a turnover. Van Dusen gets it off and gets it back to the end zone. Got it. Couts was running deep. Now Couts coming under. Didn't attack it. Now Meckler.
Great dump defense from Graves and Earls.
Taking the shot. That'll work. Meckler.
Seen that offensive set before.
Earls to Dylan. He's in. Meckler's got it again. And was he in?
Minnesota versus Harvard is the first time either team has reached the finals. Minnesota is gaining Ryan Oscar back for the finals, but in their semifinal victory, they lost Tristan Vandemortel in the process. The team has shown they have depth to hold their own, but will Ryan Oscar and Ben Yacht be able to outduel Harvard stars? On the other side, Harvard has been a two-man show, led by John Stubbs and Mark Vandenberg. but have had solid contributions from Alexander Hem, David Reschiff, and Ben Sharfstein. It's a question of, can Minnesota's depth outrun Harvard, or do Stubbs and Vandenberg have one more miracle in them?
Oscar, Ruff, Couts, and Yacht were downfield. There's Yacht. Here it comes. Ruff on the run. He's there.
Minnesota notches the first break of the game in the first half and proceed to play beautiful, quick, consistent offense throughout, giving Harvard minimal break opportunities. Even though Harvard gave up a break, they also stayed consistent and played heavily through John Stubbs, who had 4 goals and 3 assists in the match. With both offenses playing well, break opportunities were limited until the score was 12-10, Minnesota lead.
Has unfolded a big underneath D there from Ben Yacht.
Shift there. Perhaps the wind making it more challenging than he would have liked.
Shaw lets it fly. A pack in the end zone. Ben Yacht.
Minnesota brings the match to game point, but Harvard has one more miracle in them.
Again, Stubbs in the red zone. And Stubbs continues. Meckler. Oscar. Looking for Yacht. Ben Yacht. Could not. To the end zone, Vandenberg. In a very muddy, rainy, and miserable regional experience, Minnesota finished 3rd behind Carleton and Wisconsin. But it was an interesting scene last night when many members of Carleton Cut in particular were the most vocal supporters. Looked like Harvard mixed up the defense here, didn't have the legs perhaps to go man. Counts for Oscar. Minnesota on the doorstep of the title.
Minnesota Grey Duck are your 2016 national champions. A team that wasn't on many people's radars entering the year, slowly making their way up the totem pole, knocking out 2 of the preseason title favorites along the way. An unexpected champion to an unpredictable season.